Just for today, everything's okay, everything's okay. Never comes again, another day like yesterday. Just for today, everything's okay, everything's okay.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to do a relatively quick one, quick for me anyway. I had a couple over the last couple of days, thoughts, and if I'm super busy and I don't get a chance to do it, sometimes they go back into the quantum field. But I was taking a walk this morning before my day commences, and for some reason, I was thinking about the Campbell Soup guy. I think it was the assistant or the vice president who was caught making some comment about that he doesn't eat the soup, or he wouldn't feed it to his kids, or it's food for poor people, whatever, and then he had to walk it back. And I feel like this kind of stuff is common enough that I'm not even sure we have a strong reaction anymore. Of course, people were outraged. What that means, I don't know. Did their stock take a dip? Did people stop buying Campbell Soup? And I was out for my walk, and I'd picked up a cappuccino. I'm a coffee Nazi, so I'm really into like high quality, which means the rare times that I do go out for coffee, I buy from places that charge stupid prices, but whatever. There's a few things I don't compromise on. Mountain bikes and coffee are two. When I was a musician, the instruments I played. So I was thinking about Starbucks, and I want to make it clear that I'm not calling anyone evil. I'm not calling anyone unethical. I'm not saying anyone's bad. I will leave it to you to make moral and ethical judgments. I want to state something as a scientific fact that I think the human race in general still hasn't, or at least Americans haven't really, there's something a bit childish, even infantile, about how we feel about the businesses and the government and the country. We have this almost infantile, slavish conviction that being patriotic to our country means believing the fuckheads who run it. Whatever, you can see the mood that I'm in. But to address specifically, so I'm going to say some things about Starbucks, and I don't have anything against Starbucks. I'm not out for Starbucks. They're just part of the whole thing, and this is the point of what I'm saying. So now here's me as a person. I'm not an expert. I'm just expressing my individual opinion about Starbucks, and I'm going to say it in colorful language because that's who I am. They sell fucking sugar milk with occasional coffee flavor. I completely stopped, because even to try to buy a cappuccino, the smallest one, which is like, okay, you have a double shot, is this big fucking thing with 2/3 of milk. Half the time it's not even hot. It's warm. It's not frothed. It's totally dense milk. And you literally cannot taste the coffee. They just sold you like this big cup of lukewarm milk. And then forget about that. That's just my issue. Okay, so I don't buy cappuccinos or anything at Starbucks. It's just shite. Like, if you actually like coffee, you can't go to Starbucks. They don't fucking have coffee. They have fucking sugar milk drinks. Okay, so that's me. Maybe I have a right to say that, maybe I don't. I have a right to say that because I'm just an individual talking shit on my podcast. But here's the more informed opinion. When my wife and I lived in Santa Monica, we lived across from a high school. And there used to be a burger joint there. You know, of course, they're going to get lots of kids from the high school because I think they still had the right to leave the campus. You know, those rules go back and forth. Sometimes it's okay to leave campus, sometimes it's not, depending on the school, depending on whether they change the rules, et cetera, et cetera. But tons of kids come pouring out of that campus. And forget about that. What if it's a middle school? Like, how old are you when you start middle school? I don't know, like 10, 11? I don't like, right? Kids. So that burger joint went out of business, and then they opened this big Starbucks there. It's an amazing location. It's right in Santa Monica, busy area, but I guarantee you they opened it because the high school is literally there across the street. And you get these kids pouring in there in the morning, at lunch, and blah, blah, blah. And they're selling drinks with a level of sugar that meets or surpasses fucking soda. Which is also ludicrous that we would ever allow soda or sell soda to kids. It's just brain poison. It's just, you're just setting the foundation and building their way into diabetes. It is ludicrous the amount of sugar that's in a soda that a kid can just drink and burp a couple times and thinks it's funny. They're just getting high. Hey guys, they're just getting high. You would freak out if somebody gave your kid, if your kid went to the local liquor store and they sold them a beer, you would freak out. But I'm not convinced that that beer is more dangerous to your kid than a fucking Coke. Or the shit sugar milk that Starbucks sells 2-3 times a day to your kid, and you don't have any fucking control over that. Okay. Again, I'm not here to impugn Starbucks or Campbell's Soup or blah, blah, blah. Let me make a broader statement. Whoever the owner of Starbucks is, I don't know. There's someone making hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, but for sure millions and millions and millions of dollars operating that business, the highly successful business. Why? Like, all of these highly successful businesses are just addiction businesses. It's just addiction. They're just selling sugar. That's all the fuck they're doing. Selling sugar, and they're selling it to your kids. It's time for Americans to wake the fuck up and stop pretending that these things aren't what they are. What is Campbell's Soup? They're just selling you salt. Now, partially, salt is a reasonable preservative, but have you ever looked at the amount of salt? But again, that's like any mass-produced, like, what else are they going to do? How are they going to can something that needs to be able to be canned and then put on a truck and shipped all over the country and then be able to sit on a shelf for 6 months? Right? You can probably put a can of Campbell's Soup, I don't know, like, you could probably stick it on a shelf for a decade. And if there was no perforation and with the level of salt in there, you know, maybe that's what you want in your bomb shelter, your prepper shelter, right? Because however unhealthy it might be, that high salt content preserves it, and other preservatives. So I understand this is not some knee-jerk, ultra left-wing militant who's just like, I hate everything that involves money or mass production or people making millions of dollars. That's not me. If I figure out a way to make millions of dollars, I'm going to fucking do it. And my kids are going to have a nice life and blah, blah, blah. I don't have an issue with wealthy people. There's a skill there that I like. I enjoy watching the same way I enjoy a fast sprinter or like whatever. I like people being intelligent and having skills. The point that I'm making is, whether intended or not, either consciously or unconsciously, all of these people, Mark Zuckerberg, like social media, you need to understand these people don't give a fuck about your kids. Forget about you. They don't give a fuck about your kids, and all they're selling is addiction. They are selling addiction. Let me explain something, right? Like, step away from sugar, go to social media. Dopamine, everyone understands dopamine as sort of like this pleasure, feel-good neurotransmitter. And I heard a brain researcher say something that so made sense to me, that was so important, and this has a direct correlation to sugar, which is that dopamine is not the pleasure neurotransmitter. It is a neurotransmitter that's involved in the brain's understanding of what it means to take right action. Now, what does taking right action mean in the history of the human race and of evolution? Well, taking right action could mean, oh, I'm some kid and I get this little bit of dopamine hit when I see these ships sailing, and then these sailors come back with these amazing stories and they sell these goods that they have and you see them make money and blah, blah, blah. And back in the day, you know, to take a ship somewhere, 2 years was not a long time. 5 or 10 years was somewhat normal. Your dad might be a sailor and it's like, well, dad's going out, blah, blah, to make money, and he may not be back at all, or he might be back in 5 years. So what happened is, then dopamine, taking right action, dopamine is a slow, incremental, tiny drip that you get at these little hits from long, extended, repetitive actions meant to build a life and meant to engage four-dimensional reality. The same way sugar could be something that your tribe has been foraging and searching and looking and managing to live off of a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and you manage to take down an animal once in 4 months, and the tribes are able to dry it and preserve it, and then you have some food, and then in the spring suddenly there's this place where there are these tubers that explode, that these tubers have, you know, a certain amount of sugar, and you're able to go get those tubers, and it's this treat. But look at what's happening. There's all of this taking right action. There's all of this being involved in the natural growth cycle of plants. There's all of this taking right action over long incremental periods of time. And then at the right time of year, with luck and perseverance, you find these tubers, which by the way have no amount of sugar, anything equivalent to a Coke, or goddamn sugar milk sold by Starbucks. Right? So this might be a 3-month or a 6-month or at least a couple of weeks, right? Someone might go, oh, I'm going to go out and forage, and they forage for a couple of weeks, and they're hungry, and they have to avoid wild animals, and they have to be smart, and they have to sleep in a tree, and they have to do all of this stuff, this engagement in four-dimensional actual reality. And then they get this payoff. They bring home this big sack of tubers, and the tribe is like, oh my God, and you're a hero, and there's this sugar, and they can use this sugar, and they save a lot of it for the warriors or the hunters. And it's like, hey, it's time to go out for a hunt. We don't have enough nutrition. You eat these tubers, and you get this hit of sugar, and you're right. You can see that dopamine is involved, and sugar is involved over these long, durable evolutionary processes that milk you along in this very heavy, it's like existentially you're getting all of this fiber in your experiences to get a little dopamine hit here and there to keep you up and running and deeply engaged in four-dimensional reality, or to get a little sugar. And now we're in this reality where in urban areas, a kid can leave the campus and buy a Coke in the morning and buy one at lunch and buy one after school. It's fucking insane. And people pretend that it's not insane. It's insane. It's insane. It's sickness. It's madness. Right? Social media. Oh, your kid's getting a dopamine hit. Oh, dopamine hit. Dopamine hit. Dopamine hit. Dopamine hit. What the fuck do you think? That is nothing but addiction. It is nothing but addiction. How sugar is sold to us is nothing but addiction. How salt is sold to us is nothing but addiction, though it has some component of being used as a preservative. Okay, so here's the point. Our whole society in the United States is set up where people are making hundreds of millions of billions of dollars off of addiction, and they're selling it to your kids. And we know what the mechanisms are. And we know psychologically and medically what the mechanisms are, and we know how effective they are, and we know how dangerous they are. Look, there's a Starbucks on every fucking corner. I don't know about where you are, but it's like there'll be a Starbucks here, and then 2 blocks away, there'll be another Starbucks. And then a mile away, there'll be another Starbucks. And I've driven in other cities and seen the same goddamn thing. And all it is a sugar addiction. They sell sugar milk and sugar drinks. That's it. It's not even really pretending to be about coffee anymore. Although it's in it for the caffeine hit. Okay, Campbell's soup. Are you mad at that guy? So this is what I'm saying to you. So let's stop beating up on individual people and bring it to the bigger point. You have to understand that this entire system has been set up, intentionally or not, so that people who have got their hands on the levers of economics and resources, or who have figured out how to get their hands on the levers of economics and resources, are just selling addiction, period. They're just selling addiction. That's it. Starbucks, sugar addiction. Campbell's soup, salt addiction. Social media, dopamine addiction. That's all it is. And then they get your kids addicted, and then some people start bullying your kid, and so they're going to it for their addiction, their dopamine addiction, but instead they're getting depression and suicidal ideation, and then some kid completes suicide off of this shit. Yeah, because we're dealing with addiction. But we're dealing with addiction aimed at 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 15-year-olds. Do you know that starting around adolescence through 26, the human brain goes through a second neural pruning? Neural pruning is when the brain, which has an overabundance of redundancy of neuronal connections and cells, twice, between 0 and about 3 or 4, and then between 10 and about 26, or 12 and about 26, the brain will go through and strengthen the connections that are being used and kill the connections that are not being used in order to make the brain more efficient. So what that means is your kids have multiple people peddling dopamine addiction, sugar addiction, salt addiction to them during their second neural pruning, when their brain is organizing itself around the experiences that it's having at a significant level that will never happen again in their lives. Their brain is organizing itself and building itself around the experiences and reinforcing those experiences. And you have an entire society who's selling sugar addiction, dopamine addiction, salt addiction to your kids with no oversight, period. None. Do you understand the insanity of this? What the fuck are we doing? Okay, I said, oh shit, I've got clients incoming. Okay. Okay, so I have to make the point. This is all of them. You think because the vice president of Campbell's Soup got caught or blah, 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 or I'm picking on Starbucks. It's all of them. It's all of them. It's all of them. All these massive billion-dollar corporations, all of the politicians, all of them live in a reality that is so detached that there is no escape for them but to become dismissive and to consciously or unconsciously see you and your kids as less than and as responsible for managing. And I can tell you as a parent that it is an exhausting 24-hour-a-day management to fight back the tide of addictions being shoved down my children's throats. I send my children to school. We won't allow my kids to sit there and stare at screens. We don't go to restaurants and go, here, play on my phone. We don't do that shit. But they go to school and they're on an iPad every day. This is being shoved down your kid's throat. So here's the point, right? They're going to sit there and act like, well, it's your job. And well, you know, like people have to make money and this is a business and it's up to parents to make it. Shut the fuck up, you asshole. There is such a massive deluge that we're lucky enough that we make enough money, we have a strong social, but what about people who are impoverished overwhelmed, struggling with PTSD, do you think that they can manage to fight back against the overwhelming tide while these assholes at the top just go, well, it's your job? No, motherfucker, it's your job not to sell sick shit to our kids. But I know you're not going to stop, and I know you don't care. So I'm talking to the general population. You have to understand they don't care. None of them. They don't care. They don't care. And they will lie to your face about how dangerous it is. And I'm telling you right now as a fact, they're selling sugar addiction, dopamine addiction, salt addiction, anything that can addict your child and get your child to repeat over and over and over, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want that. They don't give a shit that they're destroying your child's brain. Okay, so here's the solution, because again, I have incoming. The solution is simple. If at all possible, grow your own food, make your own food. We filter our water. I use Big Berkey filters. It's great. Gravity fed. It's not super expensive. Lasts for years and years and years and years. The water's clean. It's healthy. Don't buy water in plastic jugs from the grocery store. That's also tap water that they filtered, but it's sitting there in a plastic container. Understand that your children are being targeted by these people because it makes them hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, and they don't care. No matter what they say, they don't care, and they know how to talk purdy, and they know how to feel very connected and understanding, but it's just a skill that those kind of people learn to shut you the fuck up. We have to abandon their system. You have to abandon their system. Grow your own food. Okay, just start with one plant. Learn a little bit. Grow a bell pepper plant. Grow a tomato plant. Grow some beans. Right now we have tomato, kale, lettuce, pinto beans, cucumbers, squash, watermelon growing. Okay, grow it. We're learning, right? I know that you can't just immediately escape the system. I know. I don't blame you. I know that my child is going to be in situations where somebody's going to give her a Coke or a soda. I know. But stop negotiating with the system and stop believing that they have your best interests at heart and that they just screwed up and, well, I shouldn't have said that. I was having a bad... No. They don't care about you. They don't care about you, and they're not going to, because the level of wealth and privilege and entitlement that they live in destroys, unconsciously or consciously, their feeling of connection to what you live in. And that is not going to change. You cannot trust the government to have your best interests at heart. You cannot trust any corporation or any person involved at that level. You cannot trust Mark Zuckerberg. I'm not saying he's a bad person. I'm just saying throw billions of dollars at someone because they developed a system that creates a dopamine addiction, and let's say an enormous amount of that comes out of kids. What the fuck do you think he's going to do? What do you think he's going to do? What do you think he's going to do? We have to stop this infantile, childlike believing in the systems and believing the systems, well, that happened, but I do think that no, they don't. They don't have your best interest at heart. They don't. They never have, and they never will. You have to grow your own food. You have to manage the food that's in your house. Never bring sodas into your house. Do not bring sugar into your house. Do not allow screens in your house. Okay, maybe you work on your computer. Then put it away and put it on the top shelf. And don't sit there and give it to your kid and let him play with it. But don't allow education to be like, well, this is educated. I don't give a shit. I can take my kid to a science museum. I can talk to them about science. Like, don't fucking put a screen in front of my kid. Now, my kid's getting it at her school. It's a good school, right? So I'm not mad at you. I'm not trying to shame you. But I'm telling you right now, you have to begin the long, slow process, maybe over a decade, of abandoning this system because it does not mean well by your kids, and it never will mean well. And once you sort that out, find an embattled family struggling with poverty who doesn't have the time and energy to protect their kids, and then go help them protect their kids. That's the move. That's it. 10 years for you, maybe 5. 10 years for you to sort this shit out, understand what it is, and begin growing your own food, cooking your own food, supplying your family, managing what comes in, and disengaging and detaching from these sick systems that sell addiction. And then once you've nailed it down, turn it around and find some distressed family and help them protect their kids. That's the move. That's it. I'd have a lot more to say, but I got it incoming. Love you guys. Talk to you next time. Bye.
Just for today, everything's okay, everything's okay.